now, and they're out in August. So we'll see all that, I imagine, in August. Oh, that's a hell of a loop.
I fixed it.
Go ahead and get started. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's our city council meeting for Wednesday, July 20th at 5 p.m. Mike, do you want to do roll call?
So I'm going to start with our online participants. Mayor Fender, are you here?
Here.
Councilor Thompson?
Here.
Councilor Moore?
Here.
Councilor Osholi? Councilor Osholi, are you there? Okay, we'll just have to circle back. So, I think mark them in for after. All right, so, in-house, Councilor Petrie?
Here.
Councilor Manella? Here. And President Paulson?
Here.
6 present, 1 unaccounted.
One whose name is present, but not acknowledged. See, we have no minutes to approve during this meeting, so we will move straight into the open forum. At this time, the council will be happy to receive your comments pertaining to items on this agenda, including questions, suggestions, complaints, and items for the future. Each person's time will be limited to 3 minutes.
Let's start with the in-house and then online.
You have any other one?
Not yet.
Okay. So in-house, we have Tara Roth, is that correct?
Uh-huh.
You could please state your name and address.
Tara Roth, 16628 Southwest 134th Terrace, here in King City. And I'm the HOA president for our neighborhood, Roseberry. And I need to talk to the council about, we've been asking almost 10 years now to get our yellow lines painted on our streets. I've been asking since I've been president for that long. And before Mike took over, I was talking to Dave Wells about it also. It's like there's almost no yellow anymore. And also, we would like if you could paint where the fire hydrants are red, so people would not park there. I'm forever calling the police. It's our streets, back in 2006 when the development started, the council then decided, oh, we can have skinny streets, so it's very skinny. And we park on each side of the road and 1 car, that's it. And it's a lot. Also on the corner of 134th Terrace and Macbeth, heading towards Edgewater. 1 corner is in, 1 corner is out. It's darn near impossible to see people coming from Edgewater because of that corner. People park right there. We need an extra take away 1 parking place by the fire hydrant there on that corner, because I don't know how many times I've almost been hit. A lot of my people are complaining about that because people, you just can't see. You park a big car, you can't see. You can't see anybody coming until you're in the middle of the road. And, we would like to have, more police presence coming through and ticket people that are parking illegally in the yellow on the corners. Because it's, like I said, it's a safety issue, especially with the summer and all the kids. And kids are kids. They're running in and out of the parked cars and, you know, it just, kids will be kids and they don't pay attention. And people speed through and it's like, something's gonna happen sometime. We need to try and curb as much as we can.
Thank you for bringing that to us. I definitely do see those issues as a safety concern.
Yeah.
Mike or Ernie, any commentary as far as, what we have planned out for any sort of road painting or as far as?
I mean,
President,
if you give me I'll paint it myself.
I'm sorry, this is Councilor Moore. I just have a point of order. During public comment, we accept public comment and then we can address those at a later time.
Thank you, Councilor Moore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have Joe Casanova.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Casanova. I'm at 13357 Southwest Shakespeare Street, also the president for Edgewater. The question I have for the board is that we've had sort of two separate occasions that we've had sort of common property that's been affected by Edgewater, but we were not notified of any. The first one was when they did these ramps on the corner of 131st and Shakespeare. At that time, the irrigation on both sides were ripped off. We got a bill of close to $1,000, but we were not notified this is going to be done. In fact, I happened to find it as I was running early in the morning. So I just think there's a bit of a communication gap that we could improve on. And the second one has just occurred with this new development that's happening on, again, 131st and Fisher. That whole sort of south side of that street, all the trees are taken down. That's normally the stuff that we maintain. No one notified us of any agreement. So again, just two instances that I think there could be better ways if we just talk to the property management company to tell us. Thank you.
Appreciate you bringing that to us. Mike, do you have others that are added to the list?
Is there anybody online that would like to do a public comment? Please raise your hand, or I'll open up the chat.
I'll just give a moment to see if anybody raises their hand. Does not appear so. That, I believe we will move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is old business. This is the discussion of Oregon gun laws and open carry. And this is for discussion only.
Point of correction, can we go ahead and drop off the words that's officially still on the agenda?
Oh, you mean do an agenda amendment before we go into the actual agenda, sorry. So what Ronnie's saying is that we don't have the particular award to award to officer. We're going to see who is here today, but thanks for coming in. I have a magic award for you. It's invisible though, but we'll get it for you. It did not show up, but we will get it to her, and hopefully we can do it at a later time.
Okay, so do we need to,
If we can just pull that from the agenda.
do we need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion and a second to remove it from the agenda.
So for item 6, the King City Police Department awards, do we have a motion regarding this agenda item?
It'd be 6A.
So I'll do a motion to remove item 6A from the agenda and place it on a future yet to be determined agenda.
I will second that motion.
And any discussion on it? Hearing none? All those in favor of tabling this for a later date, please raise your hand online or say aye.
Got 2 counselors online with their online hand up, and then
Councilman here? Aye.
3.
Aye.
Counselor Fender, or Mayor Fender? Uh, 601. Thank you, counselors. Now we can go into old business.
Okay.
President Fulton.
So then back to item 5, old business. Again, this is discussing the Oregon gun laws and open carry. Our presenter on this will be Councilor Shauna Thompson.
Hello, everyone. I can't see if Ernie's there tonight. Is Ernie present? Chief Hoppola?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my understanding that the chief will be actually giving the update this evening, since he has been talking with the county and the DA's office. Is that your understanding as well, Chief?
So I guess I just need to ask the question of what in particular we're looking to do.
Oh.
Is create an ordinance,
You were-
here within the city. And if we do, we've got a kind of rather large hill to climb, and that, but one of the first things is that we don't have a court record. And so what that means is basically the court that would hear, crimes. Our court hears traffic violations, traffic tickets. And so there's the first order. Washington County District Attorney's Office does not prosecute city ordinance violations. And so, we run into a rather large problem there. Obviously, we had talked about the Tigard ordinance that they have, which is probably one of the more restrictive as far as open carry goes. And one of the problems is their court is not a court of record also, and so I actually pointed out that they have an issue, and that if they, I was told that they would refer it to the district attorney's office, and I told them, well, the district attorney is not going to prosecute a city ordinance violation. So they've got some problems that they need to work out with that as soon as we pointed that out. I've talked to, many other places, Beaverton, Oregon City, and it's one of the more strange one was I was talking to a senior, a 28-year Beaverton sergeant that was unaware they even had the ordinance. And so it's something that's just never been used. And also like the scrutiny, because Portland's was referred to as probably one of the better ones that is written, but they also noted that it was not likely to survive a challenge in court, on an appeal. And so it's an interesting, issue. And also I run into, other concerns as far as, potential lawsuits is that we did take out, we passed an ordinance, we took action on it, and, on something that's a state protected right to the open carry, and we have,
I can-
somewhat restricted, there's a
Speak up a little.
and
Yes, and move it.
Is it up here? Okay. And so, I have the potential of us, running into, risk of lawsuits with us as far as, whether it's a Second Amendment violation or Fourth Amendment, if we're seizing firearms from somebody that's, violating an ordinance. And again, like I said, I don't know how we get past the first problem that we have with not having a court record. And so that's going to be something that we have to refer to, the attorneys in our group that are in our council and our attorneys that we pay for, to see what kind of challenges, because then we create a rather, like I said, rather large hill to climb.
Okay, I guess I'll share with you kind of my perspective on why I brought this up at the last council meeting. I understand that it can't be prosecuted in court in King City. It's more of a symbolic gesture because it's one of the few powers that we have as a city in the state of Oregon to prohibit open carry in our city. And so the ordinance would be symbolic. You wouldn't be arresting someone, you wouldn't be taking their guns away. It would be a symbolic thing that we as a city would do. We're following suit with the other cities in Oregon that have already done this 10, 15 years ago. So we're not doing anything new, and we're not violating any law, Oregon law, because it's clearly written in the Oregon law that it's within our power as a city to do this. So as I said, it's more symbolic because obviously we all know that gun laws are very, very loose right now, and anything that we can do to keep our community members safer and our schools safer and our children safer, I think we should do. And if it's just creating an ordinance to send a message, then I think it's the right thing to do.
Shauna, I think just a couple of thoughts. And for me, I really like the idea of taking a symbolic gesture and taking a stand and figuring out at what we collectively as a council believe in, and taking action to do that. That I agree with you. Creating an ordinance that we know can't be enforced. For me, as a member of the Oregon State Bar, I think that there's ethical violations about creating a law not for the purpose of having it be followed or enforced, but for a symbolic gesture. And so I agree with you in wanting to take a stand and doing something. I just am not quite sure and would want to know a lot more information about an ordinance. One of the things that I do think is kind of missing here is, sorry, I think I would like to, get a better understanding of what the position is of the Washington County District Attorney's Office officially about if they were to receive any kind of violation per a city ordinance, especially around any kind of gun restriction, what is their position and what is their protocol? And so I think we should try to figure out how we can get a conversation with either Kevin Barton or maybe one of his more senior deputy prosecutors to come and meet with us and kind of walk us through all of that. Because I think we can't be the only city that's thinking about this. And then
it hasn't done it. Our neighboring cities have done it. We're behind on this. And one of the reasons I became, sorry to interrupt you, Jamie, but one of the reasons I became involved in the city council is because I can't change, and I said this in the last meeting, I can't change the country tomorrow. I can't change the county tomorrow, but I can make an impact in my community, my city, King City, and that's why I'm here. And if the other cities can do it and Washington County hasn't decided to pull the trigger on it, that shouldn't stop us from being brave and doing this. It's an ordinance. We as a city council can create this ordinance, and we shouldn't be pushing back against each other, because I know that the other members of the council agree with me on this. And I think it's an important thing to take a stand on. And you can come up with all sorts of reasons not to do it, but I think we should be brave on this one and move forward and do it.
Just to comment on this, because I do agree with the sentiment of this, but I do have some concerns myself about creating a problem where there isn't one right now in our community, and inviting people who would like to challenge an ordinance for the purpose of challenging it to come into our city armed, when I don't believe that that's an issue in our city currently. So that's a concern, and I would definitely want to discuss it with our police officers and get the opinions of our law enforcement before I think I would be able to support actually putting it into effect. Well, I do agree with the sentiment.
Okay, well, I think we were, kind of the focus of tonight's discussion was to hear from Chief Hoplet, because it was our understanding that he's been talking with the DA. And so we're supposed to be kind of following his lead on this. unless the other counselors are with me with moving forward despite what the DA says. That's up to the other counselors to decide.
I believe, Chief, you've already expressed some views on this and some of the background from your conversations. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Just, to Councilor Thompson's statement and to Mayor Fender, I specifically asked this question to the DA. He said it's not something they would prosecute. And so that's where, I run into that issue. And so it's, I understand and, I appreciate, Councilor Thompson's passion for this, but it's, like I said, it's something that in my 15 years, I don't believe I've ever had an open carry call, within King City limits. But it's something that, we need, it's going to require a deep dive just because I think that there's just this legal aspect of it, of, okay, you pass this ordinance, but it's not anything that that has any teeth or anything that I can do anything about. And so, and that seems to be, quite honestly, with the people in the cities that I've spoken to, it's rarely ever, they'll go out and have a conversation with anybody, but it's not something anybody's ever been cited for or arrested for. So, like I said, those are my concerns, and then, I'd have to leave the rest up to the people who are, smarter than me as far as the, the aspect of it.
Thank you. As this is for discussion, any other counselors like to say anything on this topic? Or?
Shauna, I was just going to suggest that, I know you want it to be something more than symbolic, but perhaps we start with that, and we can do something we've done in the past, as I think Michael was saying, proclamation, or some other kind of an announcement or stand that the council could take, short of actually creating an ordinance, which in fact becomes a law, and we know it's not going to be enforced. So I'm not in favor of writing and voting on ordinances that are not possible to be followed through with. I think that is not productive. So I think we may be leaning more in terms of a proclamation or some kind of a statement that the council could support. And I think that would be the best way to go.
Also more?
Councilor Petrie, that is exactly what I was thinking as well, because it's tough. I do feel strongly about that, and I do feel strongly about a lot of things, and I would like to stand up and, say what I feel about everything, but it's a can of worms if we have an ordinance that can't be enforced, because that also weakens all of our other ordinances. It's like, well, they're not enforcing this one. Why are they enforcing this one? So I'm not opposed to it at all down the road if we have more information and have some way that it will hold weight. But I absolutely would be in favor of like a proclamation or a resolution that clearly states the council's thoughts, feelings about gun violence in our city, our state, our country. And I would be in favor of something like that. So I think that's the best way to do it symbolically, and maybe the only way we can do it symbolically right now. And I appreciate that Chief Hapala said he hasn't seen that in our city, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still have a stance on it. So there you go.
Shauna, in your kind of, research and because you're in, because this is obviously a passion and you have kind of looked into it, do we know any steps that maybe like TTSD is doing or something where we could take a stance with other stakeholders in our community together? So like, for example, right, the fact that we have an elementary school, I would love to see if we could not only do a proclamation or resolution, but is there some way that we could do something in partnership with TTSD to take a stance about keeping our schools safe and, you know, guns out of our schools and stuff, you know, stuff like that. So I'm just kind of trying to think outside the box as well, because I absolutely am 100% for making for making what our culture and our values are public. And I just, you know, for me personally, I just don't think it's an ordinance, but I think there's just as powerful things that we could take a stance on and be bold and be brave and make a statement. So I don't know how we go forward and try to figure out what the best way to do that is, but that's just
Yeah. I've been working to get a measure on the ballot, on November's ballot. I've been working with, I think it was Lift Every Voice. Anyway, they got well over the required number of signatures. So measure 114 will be on the November ballot. And it's a really powerful common sense gun law measure that will be on the ballot. So I would love for us as a council to back that measure in some way, whether that be supporting it on the voters pamphlet, endorsing it. And I'm happy to explain the details of it. But if that's something that we could do as a council, I think that would be a pretty powerful message as well.
If I could, you know, that's one of the things that I would also bring up too, is that, you know, with that initiative that's coming up with high capacity bands, that would be a good thing to get behind, high capacity magazine bands, and also a permitting process.
I can't hear you.
For you to go,
yeah,
to go purchase a flag.
Ernie, you're cut out, Ernie.
Yeah, but Ernie's talking about the same thing I'm talking about. It measure 114. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's one of those where, you know, with the high capacity magazine bans, the ability to go get the permit to be able to go in and buy a firearm, so you have the checks that have been done. You know, I think that's something that's, you know, a powerful statement to be able to put behind. As far as the schools, you know, there's been some things that we're working on since the Uvalde tragedy, and so it's something that we're doing with the school district because, to be quite honest, I think there's some areas that need to be improved. I just started going to some meetings, and so I'm trying to get some changes implemented with the school district and with the dispatch center. In fact, Officer Argoni and I were working one day when our school was put into a lockdown and we weren't notified about it. It was put in lockdown by another agency that obviously close to us across the street. But, you know, and so there's, you know, some shortcomings that we're working on and trying to get that taken care of. So it's, we're able to answer questions and be able to do things a little bit more seamlessly. So we can talk about that at a later date as well, as once we know all that everything's being implemented. But I do love the idea on the new measure that's being put out there, you know, for people to be able to put behind, you know, get behind that. And any other ideas that we can come up with. I appreciate the passion, but I think it's something to be looked into.
How does the feel about that? I mean, I don't exactly know how the logistics work about, you know, being in favor of a measure in the voters pamphlet, endorsing a measure. Is that something we can do as a council? If it is, I would love to do that, and I would love to hear other people's, whether or not they would support that as well, other councilors.
Can we do that as a council body, or do we have to do it as individual?
Individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, individually you can do that.
I'm not sure if you heard that, but it sounds like we can do that individually, but I'm not sure that we can as a council body. Looks like Ronnie's shaking his head.
I think it's one of those things where, like, when, you know, let's say, you know, Councilor Shauna Thompson, you know, supports this, and it's the same way, like, if I support the sheriff or the district attorney, it just shows my name is Chief Ernie Hopper, doesn't mention who I work for.
Okay.
But it would probably say King City Councilor, would be my guess, right?
I think it just says counselor.
So,
It does it puts, so when I do an endorsement as mayor, it will say Mayor of King City, Jamie Fender, but it's my endorsement as in my individual capacity as mayor. It's not on behalf of the city as a whole. And I think it would be a strong message, Shauna, if we could all endorse and then collectively in, you know, in material, it can be shared that, you know, the entire council of this city, you know, maybe that would be a good marketing goal for the bill itself is, you know, try to get entire councils to back it. And, you know, so, and I definitely think that we should, I think we have a lot of different options. You know, I don't think we should stop there. I think we should come up with a good proclamation or a resolution and, you know, maybe we figure out some other way to raise awareness of gun violence, or, you know, maybe we have a day in the future, in the summer, right? Next year, we do something around that. I mean, I think there's lots of different types of options, and, you know, maybe what we need to do is get a group of us that are interested in coming together to look at some of these options of what could be most impactful. I loved the idea of a gun buyback, or even trying to work with all the cities across the county and all collectively do one, you know, a gun buyback or something. So I think there's a lot of things out there. So I absolutely would volunteer my time to, you know, meet with you and look at other things that would be really meaningful and impactful. And I'm sure some other counselors would. And so, you know, maybe we should just figure out a time we can meet in August and start brainstorming what would be a great way to take a stand on behalf of the city, right? So.
I think we've had a good discussion. If has anything else to say, I just want to let you know that I appreciate everyone's input on it, and I don't have any other comments. I think we have a good plan to move forward, and I appreciate the offer, Jamie, to help brainstorm.
Shauna, I would happily volunteer to be part of that effort as well. Mike, you had something you wanted to add?
Hi, Councilor Thompson, this is Mike Weston. I was just thinking about the endorsement piece that you asked, if the city could jump on that. I think if you had all 7 councilors up there and it was saying King City Councilor or King City Councilor, that'd be a good showing of support for that particular measure. I think the city has to abide by some neutrality laws when it comes to election things, and Ronnie's shaking his head yes. So that means I'm probably down the right path here. When it comes to ballot measures, the city has to take a neutral approach on those ballot measures. We can chime in early, we can do public information components, but I don't think we can take an endorsement stand as a municipality. But you individual councilors can, and individual citizens can. So I hope that answers the question.
I get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna, for bringing that up and for continuing the discussion. Let's see, so it's on to our next piece of business. Since we have removed 6A, we're on to 6B, which is the Planning Commission interviewing, reviewing, and or possibly appointing to the open position. We currently have 3 open positions, right, and 2 existing commission members who are wanting to continue in their positions. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we have Commissioner Bellows and Commissioner Tyso are incumbent and asking to renew their seat. And then we have 2 individuals, Mr. Ron Johnson and Ms. Elizabeth Gassier, and for the open position that we have on the plan.
Since I believe most of us have had an opportunity to speak with Carol and Jan, it might be a good opportunity for us to ask some questions for Ronald and Elizabeth, if that's acceptable. Do we have microphones available for them?
We do. We have a microphone up front here.
Okay. Should we do this maybe one at a time? We'll I have,
That one doesn't work very well.
That one's gonna die, I think. That's wrong.
Oh, so go ahead and start,
I can just talk really loud.
okay, if you'd like to come up, maybe just the podium there, it'd probably be
Very good
on
then.
the phone, I believe.
Because, yeah, the phone right there picks up.
Oh.
So we've looked at the applications, and just wanted to give the opportunity for counselors to be able to ask any additional questions and information. That's
Ask away.
One of the things that we focused on, was adding to the planning commission previously was some representation in that urban growth boundary area. And I'm curious as to what additional perspective that you will add to the planning commission in addition to voices that we're already hearing from existing members that are part of the urban growth boundary.
I've lived at the same address for a little over 10 years on River Lane. My wife has owned that property since 1972 and has lived there continuously. So the roots go really, really deep for our family and for the entire neighborhood, really. We have third and fourth generations of families living in there. And so the aspect of extending the urban growth boundary and urbanization and redevelopment of property and everything, those are all hot topics for people. We're like everybody else. If it were your property, you would fear the change as well, you know, because the change that we're facing, we don't know what it's going to be yet. And I think as a member of the Planning Commission, I can provide that perspective to the rest of the commission and to the decision makers that we do this the right way. We have a chance here. We have a chance here to do something really, really good. We have an equal chance of really messing it up badly. Whatever happens in the next few months or the next few years is going to leave a legacy for the next 50, 60, 70 years. And we want to make sure that we do it right.
I just had one other question, and I'll turn it over to others who want to ask questions here. Being part of the planning commission or really any of the committees that are involved with the city planning or city budget or council requires you to make hard decisions, and sometimes they're unpopular decisions. And so just wanting to find out from you, how will you handle those who criticize your decisions and your opinions?
Good question. The same way that I handle every other criticism that I get. I'm currently president of our local community club, and I have to make decisions all the time that are sometimes not in line with the general feeling. And I accept that responsibility. That's what they elected me for. And I'm not afraid to face that. I don't have all the right answers. I don't think any of us do. But I think a collaborative approach and examining all facets of something, we can probably come up with the right decisions.
Are there other questions from other counselors?
This is Jamie Fender. I'm sorry I'm not there this evening, but I'm sure you can hear that you probably don't want me to be there with any of you there. So, but my question is to serve. It's one thing to serve in the capacity of, you know, within a group of like-minded individuals that have common goals. The planning commission, you have to make decisions for the benefit of the entire city and what's in the best interest of the entire city. And I'd like you to speak to a little bit about your ability to make a decision that might be to your personal detriment, but might be in the benefit of the city as a whole. And candidly, when you have a vested interest in, you know, can you make that decision? And I I always have concerns where if there's a preconceived notion on an outcome, it doesn't leave a lot of room for, your mind to be made, your mind to be changed. So I'd also like to understand a little bit about, what your feelings are. I think the past history with the Rivermute community is, as we know, it's been well documented. We all know that there's been tension, and I would love for us to work better and clear that, but I have reservations, and I think it would be unfair to you to not say that to you in this manner, so.
I appreciate that. I think all of us have to have an open mind with this. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us has all the answers. So we have to collaborate. We have to figure out what's going to work best for King City. What's going to work best for this new community that we're forming. And some of that, you're going to end up with people that are disappointed. That's a fact of life. You're going to have other people that are ecstatic over everything. That's a fact of life. And anytime you're doing something of this magnitude, you're not going to get 100% agreement with everyone. And I think we all have to accept that, myself included.
I certainly appreciate that. Thank you. And just for the record, apparently my French bulldog, who is asleep on my lap, is very, very loudly snoring. So just so you all know that that certainly was not me. But I'm going to go back on mute. I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And thank you for coming and answering all our questions tonight.
Would any other councilors like to ask any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for coming. So what do you see as 3 most important issues facing King City over the next 2, 3, maybe 5 years out?
2, 3, 5 years. I think that actually, Councilor, I think if we're thinking in terms of 2, 3, 5 years, that's pretty short-sighted. I think we need to look in terms of what's going to be important for King City in the next 20, 30, 40 years, long after I'm gone. But transportation is going to be a huge issue. We're all concerned about what's going to be the impact with what's going on Bull Mountain, and what's going on, with the other developments that are being included around here. We've got one road through right now, and that's Beef Bend. And if you travel Beef Bend, like I do, it's pretty difficult sometimes. There's the proposal to move Fisher Road through, and that's, concerns a lot of people because the traffic on Fisher Road down from 131st is already a big issue. There's some of the modeling for suggested alternatives is, cutting through the development area at various points, but all of those, if you look at the map, all of those end at 137th. Well, that says it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that 137th then becomes a major thoroughfare, just like 131st is now. And residents along 137th are not going to like that. Nor would I, because that's the only access point into my neighborhood right now. As a project manager, and I did this for a large part of my career, one of the first things that you look at is, is there a problem? And if there's a problem, how do you address it? What are the alternatives? And I think it's important to remember that the first alternative always has to be do nothing. And the fact that you're doing nothing doesn't mean that you're ignoring the problem. It means that that's the best alternative on the table right now. There's been a proposal to say, well, let's put a road in from the new development out towards Red Rogers up to 150th and connect with Beach Bend at that point. That might be an alternative to consider. And the traffic engineers had said, well, yeah, that's the same as doing nothing. And I said, well, maybe that's the right way to do it right now. And then we see what the future actually holds from what we start building out there right now. And if it looks like we're going to need that additional road through, then we start looking at alternatives for that.
So I do have a question for you, and this is looking beyond what you're talking about now, because as a commissioner on the planning commission, you have to look at King City as a whole and not just the issues that you're talking about at the moment. So looking at King City as a whole, hopefully you've looked at some of our things. What would you consider the strengths and challenges for King City as a whole in the near future?
I think one of the big challenges is going to be marrying together the existing or the old King City community with whatever's built out to the west of us. You want to create one unified city, but you have one group of largely retired and elderly people, and one group that is going to be largely urban, mobile, younger people. And sometimes the demographics don't marry real well. That's going to be a challenge for the city to incorporate all that into one unified city. The other thing goes back to transportation. And King City, in its original design, didn't think beyond the existing footprint of where it is right now. And you got streets that dead end, you got streets that don't connect with anything, and you've only got really one or two access points to the entire city. And one of the big decisions that's going to have to be made down the line, if we need additional east-west or north-south transportation routes through the city, some people's property is going to suffer. And we have to be willing to make those choices as well. We can't think in terms of just, west of 131st, but we also have to think of transportation within the existing city to whatever's going to be best.
Councilman Moore?
Hi there. I think that we might benefit by hearing a little recap of what the Planning Commission does and the limitations of the Planning Commission. Some of the things that you have mentioned, Ron, are not necessarily even in the scope of the Planning Commission. And to your point about, future planning, that is what the master plan gives us. So the master plan is designed to allow us as a city to tell developers and builders what they can and cannot do. And so I think Mike can probably speak a little more eloquently to that. Sorry, Mike, for putting me on the spot. If you don't mind, I'm kind of stumbling about my words, but I think you know what I'm asking for, I hope.
I'll take a stab. Is it mic working? Can you guys hear me all right? I think what Councilor Moore is talking about is what the Planning Commission does and what the role of the Planning Commission is in the community, and what we as the city, what our obligations and responsibilities are from a municipality standpoint. So we look at what the city could be in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and we have to plan accordingly. And that means that we have to look at what it's going to take to accommodate all that potential growth or all that could potentially happen over the span of the course of that time. We can't just turn a blind eye. I understand what you were saying, Ron, about doing nothing as the best alternative. That's fine for now, but what planning allows us to do is it allows us to hold developers accountable and responsible. So when those parcels come through, there's a plan in place so that it's not like Fresno or LA or one of those where it's just sprawling out all over the place, and then we end up with unsustainable infrastructure and unsustainable communities that cost more to pay for this infrastructure than the money that's coming in, right? So that's why we try to layer all of our infrastructure in, and we try to do all this like long-term planning, this 20 to 40-year outlook on transportation, on water, sewer, electric, gas, everything gets kind of combined into this master plan essentially, and that's what we're trying to work for. And what that plan is it's planning for full build out. So that plan looks at what it would take to accommodate full build out of that entire area and what kind of infrastructure would be needed to accommodate that at the end, right? So as a planning commissioner, you're looking at those elements and we're evaluating those elements, but we're also depending on our consultants to go and dig up like the state and federal goals, policies, regulations, codes, and come back to us with guidance on how we adhere to those goals, policies, codes, regulations, all that. And so the Planning Commission's job is to make sure that the information that's being presented by developers, the property owners, what have you, complies with those goals and policies, laws, regulations, and so forth. There's many layers on there. There's not only federal regulations for cultural resources and natural resources, transportation. There's state regulations that cover all those same criteria. And then there's also regional criteria as well, like metro regional criteria for connected communities and walkability standards and all this other boxes that the consultants check essentially for us, right? And so right now, over the course of the last 6 years, I think King City, through multiple grant programs, has invested, I would say, $800,000 into this long-range planning effort for our concept plan, transportation system plan, and a master plan that's coming online with new ordinances, codes, and everything else. And so it is a 20-year outlook. It is a plan, so not everything that's in the plan will come to fruition right away. It might take generations to turn over. It might take generations to happen. But if we don't have a plan there, then we have no means to keep the developers honest, if you will, or to ensure that the product at the end of the day is a product that the community can be proud of and meets the needs of the community once it's fully built. And so that's why we try to plan for parks, we try to plan for trails, we try to plan for roads. Those don't necessarily happen until the property developer develops those. And at that point in time, when the property developer comes into the Planning Commission with a development proposal, that's when the Planning Commission can look at that and say, well, it doesn't necessarily meet our code guidance or our master plan or our community plan, and you're going to need to adjust that to meet our needs, and you're going to need to pay your system development fees so that we can put the parks where we want the parks and where we want the trails and where it serves the community or the future community that's going to actually reside there when it's all fully developed, right? Mm-hmm. Councilor Moore, I hope I gave some credence there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you did.
Thank you, Councilor Moore. Are there any other questions for Ronald?
This is Smart. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, thank you for stepping forward to apply for this open seat. We really encourage people that live in the community to always be part of what we do. And so really commend you and the others stepping up to take on this. So in terms of time, some of these things have a commitment to time and being able to, what can you tell us about your time and how you'll be able to adjust in based on what you have going on right now, and should you be appointed to the committee?
I'm sorry, I didn't fully understand.
I believe, Martin, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were talking about the time commitment and that's involved in being part of the planning commission and whether or not you're able to commit to that, the time that's involved with it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's right.
I'm retired, so my time is my own. Actually, my time belongs to everybody around me, but yeah, I had no problem committing to the time involved to it. I'm involved in other things in the community, all of which take my time, but I'm pretty good about managing it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. If we have any other questions, we want to give opportunity to ask them to Mr. Johnson here, and if not, then we can, I believe, move on to Elizabeth. And I'm sorry, is it Gautier?
Gautier.
Gautier? I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Not to be repetitive, but I think that it is an important question just to ask about, kind of, how do you see yourself being able to handle difficult decisions and the and criticism that comes from the public or from those who might disagree with you in this type of role?
Yeah, I mean,
Battery.
yeah, so, I mean, I can definitely handle criticism. I worked in food service, so, yeah, I can handle that, but with the top opinions, would it be like citizens coming in here and complaining? Is that what you guys, or is it more like the actual things you guys have to, like those urban growth boundary expansion? Would those be the sort of things that?
Well, there's decision-making that comes as part of the commission, and some decisions that we spoke about with Mr. Johnson have very differing opinions, and so there's going to be disagreement, and there's going to be some that will criticize decisions that are made or opinions that are expressed. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for whatever moves us forward and makes us progress.
President Paulson, I might be able to answer her question particularly. So the Planning Commission is responsible for reviewing applications, plans, ordinances, those sort of things. So if it's a development application, the development application would be submitted. Staff would then analyze that application, review it, determine whether it satisfies the code, the municipal code, statewide goals, policies, laws, and then present a recommendation to the Planning Commission, which would then render a decision. The Planning Commission could approve with conditions, or deny the application. Or if it's an ordinance or plan, the Planning Commission would make a recommendation. And then that recommendation would then go to the City Council for final determination, because that would be an ordinance. So if it's an ordinance, Planning Commission makes a recommendation. If it's sometimes in the planning realm, you'll classify them as like a type 1 is your simple development permit. I'm building something on my house. The type 2 is, I'm going to do like a partition, like a 3-lot partition. A type 3 or type 4 is I'm doing a 15 or 16 lot subdivision. And, another example of a type 4 would be a goal exception or a plan amendment or something to that effect, something larger scale. Those typically take, anytime it's a type 4, which also requires an ordinance to coincide with it, that is a 6 to 12 month process. There's a lot of work that goes into ensuring that those applications satisfy statewide planning goals, as well as, because you're basically creating a law and you need to run it by legal counsel, you have to run it through Department of Land Conservation and Development over at the state of Oregon, and a number of other agencies to make sure that there's no objections. If there is objections, then, you know, there's a process through appeals and all that you would end up juggling. But essentially, the Planning Commission is going to provide subjective review on some applications that require that. Like, say that there was a proposal that wasn't necessarily identified in our zoning ordinance, but it could be considered as a similar use, so it takes a subjective decision. Staff members, we would evaluate like a type 1 or type 2 decision that doesn't require that subjective review. Planning Commission would do type 3 and type 4, which requires a little bit more subjective and civilian input on those sort of things.
Okay.
Another element that planning commissioners might be involved in would be like design review. Like, say we get a proposal for the commercial development down there, and we want to evaluate those design, we want to look at view sheds, we want to look at access to parks or art or culture requirements or any of those elements. Planning Commission could add subjective conditions on there. But we have to be careful too. We still have to make sure that our decisions with the Planning Commission are in line with state laws, policies, and goals, and there are limitations built into our court system. Like, you might know of Dolan v. Tigard, where Tigard was telling a developer that they needed to put a pathway along their river or creek front, and Mr. Dolan fought that and won. And so at that point in time, the courts determined that a planning body or a municipality can't go beyond a certain limit, right? And so we have to be careful on the conditions that we apply. And that's why it's important that we get the master plan and the other planning documents in place, so then we actually have something that we can point to and say, see, it's in our plan, and you're required to do that. Because we are allowed to produce zones, and we are allowed to provide resources for the benefit of the community. And if we don't have them in the plan, then we can't ask the developer to provide those later.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike. There's just one other question for me, just more having to do with in general. What do you feel you and your experiences would bring to this, to the planning commission?
I would have to say like a younger generation's perspective, because I think I'm the youngest person here and just on the board members. And like, I've lived in that newer development since just Shakespeare was developed, and so like there wasn't even a park. None of the newer neighborhoods is there at all, only the streets have been paved. So I mean, I've grown up here, and you know, I'd like to see more things develop to the park and in the trail, and then to see the community expand from just an older neighborhood up to this newer stuff. And other things, you know, I'd like to just learn more about the city and city procedures, and then as well as trying to plan and organize other community events and help with the structure of the community.
Any other councilors have questions they'd like to ask?
I'll kind of keep on the same path. Thanks for joining us tonight. So what do you see as 3 important issues facing the city looking out 2, 5, 20, 30 years?
So if you want to talk about like that far out, then I would say, like if you wanted to do that master terrace plan going through Fisher, my problem with that is if it would be wide enough down the line, because and then a lot of these roads, you build them 1 lane each way, and then 20, 30 years, you've like outsized the size of the road, and then you have to do a major expansion. And I do understand that right now you have to think small, but we are at the point where the urban growth boundary is only going to be pushed farther out because we're not doing any upward building. So I do think those things need to be taken into consideration a bit more than they are. And then as well as like park amenities I want added, like water access to the park, the West Side Trail to be completed, restrooms that are, always there, a community garden, and then, there's a few other like safety things down at the park, like, where the creek meets the river, it's eroding pretty bad, so it would need some sort of restoration thing. And then even like a boat launch, people put their boats down there and then pretty steep. So just really adding features to the community.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone online that would like to ask any questions?
Counselor Thompson. It's not a question. I just wanted to thank you and the other applicants for applying. It's, obviously it's a volunteer position, so you're just really serving your community. And I just respect you so much, all four of you, for being willing to share your time and your skills with us. So thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah. So Elizabeth, real quick, what were you thinking, what was your thought process in applying for this open position?
So I've been trying to get like a community garden started for over a year now, just at King City underneath those power lines, because I figured it was just wasted space. And so I came to like one budget meeting, got some advice there. 2 people told me to apply since I had an interest, and then, I reached out to like elementary schools, other cities to see if I could get some sort of garden established, and I've just not really gotten a lot of traction. So I come here, and then, they were like, just sign up. That's what I'm doing.
So the planning commission doesn't really directly deal with the kinds of things you're talking about.
Yeah.
How is your time? Do you have an open time, or we're talking about time commitments for being on the planning commission, especially going forward? So is that something that you are going to be able to do?
Yeah, I have plenty of time. I go to school, all term, part-time, and then I work part-time as well. And it's a pretty balanced schedule, so yeah, I will have time.
Anyone else have any questions?
This is Smart.
Richard?
When I echoed Sharana, thanking you and the others for volunteering to put your hand up to be called for this. So my question to you is, the direction in which you go with your decision and other members of the committee, how will you handle that? So it's kind of like you're not in agreement with someone else's decision, and how do you come to an agreement to move forward?
Sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
So should you be appointed to be part of this committee, how will you handle dealing with other committee members based on their decision, or how they make their calls or votes for any topic or subject being discussed?
So if I understand you correctly, in order to get, I think, the information I would need to, I'd have to just socialize with the other members and really understand what it is that I'd be voting on or approving, just because I am so young and so new to this. I want to make sure that I have, the understanding that I need to in order to make choices for everybody.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
I was just gonna say, I know my microphone's probably gonna die, but when Councilor Petrie was mentioning some of the things that you were talking about, community gardens, those sort of things, in the planning commission, we have to take a little bit of a higher stance, and we're kind of looking, the consultants really do kind of like the design work and everything, and then bring it to us for approval, and then we kind of look at that and say, is this what we envision as a need for our community. And so, it might not be as hands-on as what you were looking for, but I think we still provide very valuable input into those processes as planning commissioners, as citizen volunteers. And so I think maybe there's some expectations that maybe we temper just a little, that you need to temper just a little bit, but understanding that it's still a critical and a very important role, and that there's still inputs that can be provided at all different levels. And planning commission, in my opinion, plays a very vital role in providing those inputs. So it might not be as hands-on as you want, but it still provides input.
And thank you, Elizabeth. I don't have any other questions, and no other councilors do. I know we've had the chance to work with both Carol and Dan in the past. We do have candidates in the audience, so I wanted to give an opportunity if you wanted to say anything about your experience on the planning commission and why you would like to remain on the planning commission. Just want to make sure you have the opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Hate talking into microphones, but I'll do my best. I want to condemn my experience on the planning commission. It's been very collaborative between the council, the commission, the council, and the city staff. And I have to compliment the city staff on their expertise in helping to guide us in a sense. And I went to school and got a degree in community development several years ago, and being part of the planning commission is just being able to use that education that I got. And excuse me. And I would like to be part of knowing that the decisions that we make now, 30 or 40 years from now, people will be glad we made some of those choices instead of, willy-nilly development is always ugly. So, to me, planning is extremely important, and planning for all ages is important, from birth to death. We need to have an environment that encompasses everybody. And so I'm honored to be able to put my 2 cents worth in my years of living. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have Carol Bellows is also online. I'm not certain if she has the ability to unmute and just again provide us just with a brief statement about why you would like to continue with the planning commission.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have my degree is in landscape architecture, and much of my experience though is in planning. I went after landscape architecture with the idea of urban design and planning because of its spatial rather than its just its spatial point of view in landscape architecture. I have experience as a planner, and I have lived here 29 years now. Oh my God. And I've seen my kids go from being in my belly to starting their own businesses. And I, as a mom, have experienced the way things have been built. Then as an empty nester. And I really want to see things built so that people thrive. We need a complete community. It's very, very obvious now that we have so much global warming, so much high temperatures. It really is, I mean, we're there, okay? We have to look for the complete community where people don't have to keep leaving in order to go to a good restaurant or a park or a swimming pool. We really need a good quality of life in this community. Have background in transportation, in ecological restoration, and I want to put that to use. I just want to put that to use here in King City because this is where I live, and it's where I will probably live the rest of my life. So that's why I want to be part of it. I want to use my skills.
Thank you, Carol.
Anybody questions? Mayor Jamie, I see your hand is up.
Hi, Carol. Thank you. Excuse me. I'm really curious, given you know, I know you've been on the commission for a while, and I would love to find out from you about what your input is or your opinion is on the vacancies on the committee. If you feel there's voices missing or there's trepidation for adding, you know, voices, I would just like to get a general sense of how the commission is functioning currently and what you see is really needed to make sure that all voices are heard in our community and that we're being thoughtful and so forth. So could you just speak to, you know, I apologize because it's not necessarily a question about you and your candidacy, but I think you would give a valuable opinion to the council.
Well, I think it's important that we have a range of ages, you know, a diverse group in terms of age and ethnic, and financial. We tend to all agree or try to all agree. It's pretty easy right now to come to a consensus. It's hard to disagree. We have some really good people with some very good experience. But I think it's important to not be too invested in any particular outcome. We need to be invested in an outcome that's going to work for King City. I'm really trying to think back to all of my experiences, you know, the tours. You know, I do have empathy and sympathy for people whose properties might be affected. I've somehow in my life, I managed to live in every community that is the fastest growing in America. You know, I really, I just like going back and forth up and down the line. It's been 2 years since we've all been together, so it's been really hard. It's really hard to say. I think we need people with more equity as a concern. We have some really good ecologically minded people. We need some youth. So there, okay. I can ramble forever.
I appreciate that, Karen. You know, I know I put you kind of on the spot, and I appreciate your candor, and thank you.
The next step on this, Mike, what is our, are we to consider and come back for a vote at a later date, or should we go ahead with a, with an appointment this evening?
Those are the two options, essentially. If the council feels that they've heard enough from the candidate, that they feel comfortable to move ahead with appointment, then we could do that. I think the way that we need to do that is we go through each seat and select a candidate for each seat. You would need a motion and a second for the candidate, and we would need a vote for that candidate. And if the council feels comfortable with moving ahead with the vote, then I don't see any reason to delay it. If the council wants to consider it, we can table the event until next month, and then all at that point in time.
Thank you. Yes, do we have this, within the rules of order, do we have room for discussion on that as far as what people's opinions are on that at this moment?
So yeah, what you would need to do is have a motion and a second, and then discussion would follow the motion.
Okay.
Hi there. Do we have a planning commission meeting scheduled between now and our next council meeting?
The next round of community outreach, there is a SAC and TAC meeting scheduled for, I think, August 7th and 8th. Let me just pull up my calendar so I don't.
Okay, so that would be just one planning commission rep, and I'm not sure that we have one right now. And then
August, correction, August 8th and 9th. And then there's another community engagement that we're trying to get for August 23rd. We're still trying to nail down a site.
But no planning commission meetings planned yet.
It would be this August 24th would be the next planning commission meeting. August 17th would be the next city council meeting.
Right, okay.
And I'm not gonna be there for that August 17th meeting. So Ernie will be spearheading it.
Okay. Thank you.
So I guess then we'll put it out there for any councilors have a motion on this.
Mayor Fender has her hand raised.
Sorry, can't see that well.
So I first of all, Mike, if I'm not running the meeting tonight, does that mean I can put forward a motion?
Sure.
Just a point of order. And so I want to share a little bit of my thought process, because I think these positions are vitally important, and I don't want to discredit anyone because of either, implicit or, or just regular bias, right? I don't want to have preconceived notions about any candidate and make a wrong decision, because I truly do think that every voice is needed at the table. I will share my personal fears that because this process has up until this point been so contentious, and that's not to say there's blame, quote unquote, to go all around. I think there's been missteps all across the board with, missed opportunity for engagement and connectivity and discussion and collaboration. And so I certainly I'm not critical of I'm not trying to be critical of any group of people, or not critical, right? But what my fear is that individuals with a very specific desired outcome will choose those outcomes above the benefit, or maybe not be able to put their own preconceived, already decided, right, views aside and be open to what is really needed at the table. And what I can tell you is tonight, I just have no sense of whether that is or is not true. And I want to be thoughtful and respectful of every candidate. And so what I would like to try to figure out is how can we make it equitable for the candidates, where we can either have, we can come up with maybe a couple other sets of questions that we ask, or I don't know how to best address my own trepidation here of, I just don't want to make the wrong choice. And I don't think it's fair to discount someone simply because where they live or don't live, or right. But my mind is just not made up tonight. And so for that, what I'm going to say is this, is historically, we have always recognized and we have always placed the primary, kind of the primary factor on those who have served previously, who want to continue to serve. We have always supported that. So I think my motion tonight is that we approve the reappointment of the two planning commissioners who are wanting to reserve. And I would like to invite the other two candidates to come back next month. And between now and next month, I would like to come up collectively as a group with a couple additional questions that we can ask that are going to be for both candidates. And maybe if there's a third candidate, right, but I want to have some type of fair way to help me make up my mind on how I would vote. And I don't know that. So my motion tonight is, I guess, let's simplify it. My motion is to reappoint the two planning commissioners, Jan and Carol, and then invite the other two back next council meeting and have another round of discussions.
I'll second that motion. I'll second that.
Councilman Moore seconded. Any discussion?
I just
think we need.
I just want to say may I say one more thing? I really hope, I hope, Ron, that, I mean, no disrespect at all. And I just want to be very thoughtful in my own decision. And I want to just be honest with my own feelings. So I again, I don't mean any disrespect. I just, I want to be fair and thoughtful. And so I just wanted to make my own feelings clear. So.
So if I understand the motion correctly, it's to reappoint Commissioner Tyso and Commissioner Bellows. And then for the third position, we reconvene on August 17th with questions in hand that have been formulated by the council over the span of that time. Is there a particular day? Is maybe during the work session prior to? Could we do something like that? Or is it something that we can just do? Submit emails to staff and then we can formulate a questionnaire that the candidates can answer?
I think that's close to what I meant. So definitely it would be to reappoint the two commissioners and then invite the two candidates back next month. And I like the idea of having a work session ahead of time, or I guess I don't know what I don't know what is, what's going to be easier for everyone, whether we want to try to do by email or something. But I would like to identify maybe, 2 or 3 additional questions that we can put forward to both candidates, and they can both, they can answer those questions, and between now and then, we can come up with those questions. And to make it fair, they're the same, because I think that's the other issue, is that if everyone's getting different questions, it's hard to compare and contrast, right, those answers. So I think in the fairness, I think they should be identical in the discussion as well. And so I think the work session makes the most sense if other people have other ideas. But I think for now, to simplify the motion, it is simply reappoint the two commissioners, invite the two candidates back at the next council meeting, and continue the discussion. And in the meantime, we can kind of figure out how to continue that discussion in a thoughtful and fair, equitable way.
Mayor Fender, would you be willing to amend your motion to simply appoint the two counselors, and then we can address the third position?
So amended.
Thank you. I second still.
So we have an amended motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? Hearing none. So all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand online.
Aye.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 7-0.
Opposed?
Congratulations, Commissioner Tyso and Commissioner Bellows, on your reappointment.
Congratulations. And we'll look forward to some further discussion with both of the two other candidates at next month's council meeting.
I think we need a motion for the third position.
Exactly.
So
So we could do.
So go ahead.
Someone else take a stab at it.
All right. I would like to make a motion to draft a questionnaire to be sent to applicants and reviewed by council prior to the next meeting. I don't think we need to, I do not think we should gather immediately before the meeting during a work session to come up with questions. I would like to send a questionnaire out to applicants and then have them returned before the meeting for our review.
I second that. Councilor Moore.
Motion and a second from Councilor Thompson. Any discussion?
I just have some clarifying questions. So the first is can we identify a time frame by which the first couple proposed questions can be circulated, and also who's going to draft the let's however many questions, 2 or 3 questions. So
yeah, I think we might have some. Ronnie and Mike might have some. I remember answering some at one point. So we may have some to work with. But I think that if we can, approve of some questions via email just in the next week, that would be sufficient time. I think we can do that quickly after we all kind of reflect and narrow it down. Does everybody think having questions prepared in a week is doable?
I like that. I think that's a great idea.
I believe so as well.
Do we need an amended motion with that as a caveat?
No, I believe as long as we, like Councilor Moore and Councilor Thompson were saying, if we as a body can email me any kind of questions that you have, we can look up the questions that we had for previous commissioners and councilors and pull those together, and we can cherry pick which ones we like the best and then send them out to the candidate. And I think we have your emails, right?
So we have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, go ahead and vote. So all those who are in favor, please raise your hand online or say aye and raise your hand here in the council chamber.
4 online.
Aye.
and 770.
Motion passes. Okay, well, thank you very much to all the candidates for coming in. We will get the questions over to you as quickly as possible. We'll look forward to more discussion next month. And on to the, excuse me.
And President Paulson, just so our candidates know, our meeting is the third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. So it'll be same place 1 month from now. I think that was August 17th, right?
So then, moving on to item 6C. Here's the pride disposal rates. This is for discussion and to consider accepting or approving the new pride disposal rates. And Mike, you want to present?
So we basically have two options here based on our agreement with Pride. We can either adopt option one, which is the straight CPI adjustment, or we can adopt option two, which is the straight CPI adjustment plus the optional food scraps in the yard debris, essentially. And then there's also the add-on for the recycling piece that goes along with that. So I guess it's three options, but it's really two. There's one base option, and then there's an option that has adds on it. The additional cost was, would you say, 33 cents on that? To the yard debris. So if you had yard debris, it'd be 33 cents.
Still on.
What's that?
She's still on.
Okay. Oh, Kristen's here. Kristen, you want to chime in? Did I say it correctly, or did I miss anything?
Yes. Yeah, so the CPI for all services would be the 4.52%, and that's related to the code. And then the kind of optional, or the other pieces are, do you want to add food scraps to the yard debris for those that subscribe to yard debris service? And that would be an additional 33 cents for those customers. And then the third choice is the Recycle Plus add-on optional subscription service for customers who are interested in that service.
And just, excuse me, just to be clear, the optional kitchen scraps and the optional additional recycling programs are only for those who are actually using that service, correct? Those are not passed on to everyone within the community.
Right. So the food scraps, anybody who has yard debris service, either currently or adds it in the future, would pay that additional 33 cents to be able to put their food in their yard debris cart. If they chose for whatever reason not to do that, they would still pay that additional 33 cents because all of that material is going to go to the same place that has the higher processing costs. The Recycle Plus service would only be charged to those who choose to add that to their suite of services, and nobody else. Anybody who chooses to opt out of that or stay opted out of it, I guess would be a better way of putting that, would not pay that additional fee.
We need a motion.
Can I ask a question first?
Go ahead.
Is it okay if I ask a question? President Paulson? Oh, I can't hear you guys, but okay. Hi, Kristen. My question is, I'm just curious, how do you process yard debris? And if we're putting food waste in the same bin, how do you process that if they're combined?
So there's different facilities that take this material and they require different permits based on if they're taking yard debris material only versus yard debris with food included. So we are the hauler of that material and the collector of that material, but we don't do the processing ourselves. So we collect it from all of our customers. We will bring it to our transfer station in Sherwood. So all of our smaller route trucks will get reloaded into a larger trailer to make it more efficient to haul to the facility. And then it will be hauled to a facility that is permitted to turn that material into compost that you can buy to enrich the soil at your home garden, things like that. So it's making the same product as you would if you're composting yard debris versus yard debris with food, but the process in which you make it is different because when you add food, there's just different ways to process it. There's like forced air, there's, and I'm sorry, I don't run a compost facility, so I don't speak this language very well, but it's just a different process and it is a little bit more expensive, which is why it's more expensive to process the material as well. So hopefully that answered, but feel free to ask a follow-up if that was not a good enough answer to what you've asked.
No, that answers it. Thank you.
I also have a question before a motion. Do we need to make each of these items a separate motion? Does it matter?
No, I don't believe so. We can do it all in one.
Okay.
I'm shaking his head that we can do that, so I think that's fine.
Okay. I would like. Oh, what was that, Mike?
I was just saying, I think one motion is simpler.
Yes, I would agree. I would like to make a motion to approve the rate changes and make composting and recycling plus available for our residents. Does that cover everything, Kristen?
I think so, as long as Mike is comfortable with the logistics piece of it.
I second.
Clarifying point that compost also means food scrap.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
We have a motion?
I think Fender seconded.
I did.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we vote?
I don't have any questions. I just want to simply applaud Pride for getting these programs off the ground and getting them available to our residents and at a cost that I think we can all agree. I think, the CPI is just what it is, but getting 33 cents to get composting going, I think is commendable. And I think you figured out a way to make the long-awaited other items that we know people are really interested in affordable. And I'm glad that you guys were able to do that. And I just thank you for making that available to our residents. So.
No. Kristen, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just realized that I needed to clarify. We didn't really put a date on the Recycle Plus rollout. We can start it as early as August 1st if that's what the council is interested in, but I just wanted to clarify that point so I'm following what you would like us to do.
I would say if it needs to be included in the motion, just as early as soon as possible.
Acceptable change to the motion?
Still seconded.
Still seconded. All right, so let's go ahead and have a vote. Those who are in favor online, please indicate with your hand. Those here in council chambers, please raise your hand, say aye.
Yeah, 4 online.
Aye.
Aye.
And 3, but 7 total.
Carries. And what do we have here? That is the end of the new business for this evening, and we will turn it over to Chief Hapela for the police chief's report.
I just have one real quick thing, just that we did enter into an agreement with Lexipol over the new policy manual. There'll be something that we would roll out, as soon as possible. It could be, we could have another 6-week delay just due to issues again. I'll be back working the road again for weeks. And so and the policy might have come out. All I got. Mark?
Okay, just to give an update on where we're at, city staff met with Pacific Community Design. They are the consultants for the group that is doing the town center over off of Roy Rogers, between Roy Rogers and Elsner, and south of Beef Bend, to just go over some preliminary plans, discuss some of their development concepts and ideas, where parks might lay, where municipal buildings might go, where mixed use, what kind of streetscapes we're going to look like, where infrastructure might lay, natural resources, stormwater, and that sort of stuff. It was really interesting seeing their plans and sitting down with them and going over some of those details. We're still really early in the process, but it's nice to see what our zoning maps or our preliminary zoning maps can be transformed into when you see it on the diagrammed out like that. So it was pretty nice meeting. We learned a lot. We talked to them about what a lot of our desires are for parks in that area, as well as intersections for bike and pedestrians, and tying into Al's Farm and Gardens and integrating that whole area. So it was very interesting. We also talked about some of the school needs that Tigers Walton School District had mentioned to us as well, and where potential for school siting might be. Regardless, it was just a very interesting conversation, and gleaned a lot of information off of that component. So that was really a really enlightening meeting that we had earlier this week. In addition to that, you all have probably gotten many calls over the course of the last 2 weeks, because they're moving dirt on the corner of 131st and Fisher. And so just to refresh everyone's memory, this is a 16-lot subdivision that's going in at the corner. It contains those 16 lots plus 2 mixed-use lots, or 1 mixed-use lot that could be divided into a number of units. The proposal from the property owner was to have like a tap house and some micro restaurants or something to that effect surrounding a plaza with a potential fountain or water feature there at the corner. They are in the midst of realigning utilities, putting utilities underground, doing the initial infrastructure and groundwork right now. And essentially they're doing phase 1, which is the residential components on the west and north side of the property. So those will be the first 2 that go in, along with the roads and other infrastructure components. The commercial element or mixed-use element at the corner will be phase 2, and they're just now starting designs on that particular piece. They asked me to float a concept to the council and community, if you will, about the potential of doing like a tap house with some food carts, like food cart plaza and event center sort of thing. I thought I'd throw that out there and see what kind of take the council has on that. Based on our current code, our code was written before the whole food cart phenomenon, so we do not have food carts as a eligible use, essentially. It's considered outside dining, or it's considered like a trailer outside or something to that effect. So it doesn't necessarily fit into the definition that's in our code. So, but if they had it inside, maybe they had food carts inside, or had a unit where you see in like maybe downtown Portland, where you go into an area and they'll have like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 little micro restaurants and tables and things of that nature. I think our code would support that, but I don't think that in its current form, I don't believe it would support food carts. But I've informed the owner of that and told him that we are doing master planning work right now, and we are doing a lot of modifications to the zoning ordinances and those sort of things. So there's an opportunity there to be involved and upgrade or modify those zoning ordinances to be more in line with what other communities around us have brought online. So that's 131st and Fisher. We also have Ponderosa Pines developing down off of Southwest Caesar Terrace in Bedford. They are working on putting in some infrastructure currently. That is an 11-unit subdivision, and I believe that is all the developable land I think we have left. So with that, we move into just a status update on where we're at with the master plan and TSP. And this might be old news, but the consultants are saying that they should have a draft alternative, a draft preferred alternative in August. And so they have scheduled the stakeholders advisory committee meeting for August 8th, I believe, and then the technical advisory committee meeting on August 9th. And then we're trying to get a community meeting scheduled for August 23rd. It'd be a Tuesday at 6 p.m. To do that, we still have to get a large enough space, gathering space. So we tried to get Deer Creek Elementary School, and we're rejected from there. I called Michael Dahlstrom over at Highlands to see if maybe we could use their meeting room. He said he was going to present it to their board and get back to me. But recommended I reach out to Sue Riley-Smith, who is the superintendent over at Tiger Falls School District, and try to maybe re-question that one. The other opportunity is across the street at the King City Civic Association, and see if we might be able to use their meeting space. I'm sure that probably needs to go to their board as well. So here it is toward the end of July, and we still haven't nailed down that meeting space, and we're trying to nail it down before we have to send out public notices to everyone around. So just like before, I think you live in the impact area, you would end up getting a mailed notice, a flyer, that there's community outreach or engagement opportunity coming. There would also be updates, I believe, presented to the City Council and probably Planning Commission in the month of August as well. And then from there, I think the consultants go back to the drawing board and hit it one more time, and then there's probably one more engagement opportunity before we go to Planning Commission, is my understanding. So probably at this point, 2 more community engagement cycles out from a preferred draft alternative for the master plan. I think that's about all I have.
Mike? We'll move along to the councilors. I got a request from Mayor Fender. Well, she still has a voice that she would like to go first. So please go ahead, Mayor Fender.
Thank you. So it was kind of an eventful last month. So I attended the WCCC's workshop for Regional Transportation Plan Policy Review. I had lunch with Mayor Beatty of Beaverton. I attended, we had our HOA, monthly HOA presidents meeting. And then at the last mayor's morning, sadly I had to attend a funeral, so I had to cut it short, but I was able to meet with Joe Casanova, the president HOA, and the first thing, since it's on my mind, is that the July mayor's morning is going to be canceled. I'm going to be out of town, so I have posted on social media that the meeting's canceled, and anyone who would like to meet with me, who was planning to come to that meeting, can email me and set up a time, and we can go for coffee directly. As you can hear, I am ill. I'm still I got COVID. It's a cautionary tale because I have been vaccinated and I have been boosted 3 times. So I think we really need to start being more thoughtful and conscious of, our awareness around this new variant because it is very contagious. So please wear masks and be careful. We had the 4th of July parade and I would say soft opening festival. I don't know how many in the room attended, but I thought it was a great kind of reopening back to an event. Luckily, I have not heard that it was a super spreader of COVID and I did not get COVID at the event. My husband gave it to me so I can blame him for the rest of my life. But I think by all accounts, it was a well-received and well-attended kind of mini event, and I look forward to the full festival next year. We also have had the blood drive. We had the blood drive on, on the 13th, and we had 12 people donate 11 pints of blood. That equates to about 3 lives that were saved by that blood alone. I really want to do a big shout out and a thank you to John and Nancy Walters and to Lori Petrie for volunteering and helping make that event a success. And, hopefully we can kind of continue and do, I don't know, quarterly or blood drives every couple of years, because I think for not a lot of time and energy, although John, Nancy, and Lori might disagree with me, but for not too much work, I think the impact was wonderful. So thank you to all those who helped participate and organize and also who donated blood. So that I think is pretty much all the updates. I have to admit, I'm really not feeling well, so I am going to sign off since we're at the end of the evening and I already know everyone's updates. So I appreciate everyone's time tonight, and I will see you guys on email unless anyone has any questions before I head out.
Thank you, Mayor Fender, and I think all of us would like to just say that we hope you feel better quickly.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right, good night, everyone.
Just a point of clarity, it's 3 lives per pint, so that's 33 lives.
Thank you for the clarification. Why don't we keep with those that are online, and I see Smart there, and I'll go from the bottom of the list online to the top. So Smart, would you like to go?
Yes, I don't have much to provide update on. Still working with the changes that are kind of coming up for the water advisory. Like I shared with you the last time with the COVID cases, I think they'll still keep the meetings virtual. They were thinking about doing it in person, but I think that I've not heard yet, but I think that's something will go out to that effect. I also did attend the HOA meeting, and again, the meetings are kind of like opportunities for people, and I will share with them to kind of want to see the council, and then I'll bring whatever we discuss at the council to that gathering. So again, a lot of progress being made because of the changes in the weather and all the plans that the committee has put together to address all the changes going on right now. Again, the committee is really kind of appreciative of what we bring to the table, because I know a number of times we've kind of had the in-person one, and there you get the chance to meet with people. But again, with the COVID conditions, it's always very hard. So I'll keep on attending the meetings, and I'll bring what we discuss here over there, and what they share with the group, I'll bring back over here. So that's all I have today. Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Okay. Hi. I was planning to update everyone on Measure 114 during my time, so I've already done that. So I'm just gonna say that's all for today.
Councilor Moore?
Hey, everybody. So Mike, I'm really glad that you brought up 131st and Fisher. I've been fielding a lot of questions about that. So thank you for covering that. While I was looking into that though, I was actually spending quite a bit of time looking back through old agendas and minutes and packets and all of that. And I realized how much awesome work we've actually done in the past 5-6 years, before my time, so I can't take a lot of credit for it, but I think that 131st and Fisher started like in 2016 or 17. So that that is finally in development, but it was striking to me that for such a small city, just looking through the minutes and seeing the progress that we've made, that we have done so much. And I was kind of reflecting on, first of all, I'm a teacher. So my time for reflection is the summer. So that's when I have time to do that. And it has kind of seeped into all aspects of my life. But I was reflecting on the work that we're doing with master planning. And I know that's been going on since 2016 or before. And we're almost done with that. And I just hope that everyone takes a moment to acknowledge all the work that's been done by everyone already, and that we can actually, for the first time, see the finish line. And it'll be nice when some of that is done, because that, I know, Mike, that takes up 90+% of your time. And so it'll be really nice when that's done, first of all, so that we can, you know, be excited about it, but also so that we can focus on some of the other things that the council is wanting to have happen and everything. So anyway, thanks for listening to that little spiel that I had. I don't have any update other than I wanted everyone to just kind of reflect, and anyone who's listening, any citizens, do a deep dive into our old minutes. It's fun sometimes if you're interested in learning more about what's been going on in our city. So thanks.
Councilor Moore? Councilor Petrie?
Well, first of all, I have to say that, and I appreciate the mayor for acknowledging the work that the people did for the Red Cross. But I can't take any credit for it because I was a first-time donor, and when I was done, I almost passed out. So I was not myself as a volunteer. They actually said, "I don't think we're going to need you after all today." So, but the good news was that we had a lot of people turn out, and they were really appreciative of us doing it in King City. So hopefully the next event we'll have even more people donating, and I may or may not be another donor. So, but I do have a couple of updates to the council concerning some of the meetings that I attend. So I did attend the Region 2 Small Cities meeting that was in June in Gaston, and the LOC did some updates of interest to us. One of them was that they wanted us to know there are conversations going on concerning trying to find ways to backfill the revenue losses on the marijuana tax. So that's a good news thing. And they're also, word to the wise, some groups are looking to address cities' use of SDCs. So the LOC is looking to form a focus group on this subject that we could participate on if we wanted to. Meetings that were attended in the meeting also discussed aging water systems and water rights and source issues in the face of growing demand, not something that we are dealing with now, but it is becoming a hot topic around the region. The next meeting for small cities is in September, and it's probably going to be in Estacada. I attend the King City Garden Villas HOA meeting. They are working on replacing their flat roofs. I attend King City Condos. They're working on infrastructure issues, including sidewalk issues and drainage problems that they're having in their particular area. And then I did attend the MPAC Metro meeting in June, and just a couple of highlights of that. They did updates on projects that were funded by the 2019 Metro Park and Nature Bond in conjunction with the local option levy that was passed in 2016. The most recent project in Washington County is the Chehalem Ridge Nature Park, which is south of Forest Grove and near Gaston. I'm told it is fabulous, and they have thousands of miles, maybe not that much, but a lot of mileage of trails for people to participate. This levy is expiring in June of 2023, so Metro is getting information together to potentially refer a renewal levy to the voters this November. So that's coming up. They updated transportation trends. They put more time into arterial information and usage, miles driven, and transit usage is still down. And finally, the most interesting thing is, for the first time in this area, MPAC is looking into Tiger's mid-cycle UGB expansion proposal and exchange request. There's never been an exchange request in our area discussed by an entity yet. So this is the first time it's been considered by Metro as opposed to a regular mid-cycle process of review. Tiger is looking to add 350 buildable acres to their UGB. Metro will be working on this through the summer, and the key that they'll be looking at is the readiness or lack thereof of the various UGB blocks of land that might be available for an exchange. So it's going to be an interesting process to follow. So, and that is all of my meetings.
Councilor Manoa.
The only thing I have, just the Par 4 HOA meeting, I was supposed to attend that on Saturday, but I had a family matter come up, so I had to be out of town, so I apologize to the Par 4 HOA for not being able to attend their annual meeting.
I attended the CDBG Policy Advisory Board meeting last week, and it was an interesting meeting. We did find out in the course of the meeting that the estimated funds that we were getting from the Fed ended up coming in a little bit lower. So unfortunately, we had two projects that were not able to be fully funded, but that were still at least partially funded. And the Washington County Housing Team is looking for ways to reallocate funds to get that back up to what our advisory board had voted on. We also did vote on there's a traditional set-aside that has been in place for about 20 years for two groups, one called Rebuilding Together Washington County and Community Action. They do basically housing rehabilitation, and it was the decision of the board to move that response, to take away those set-asides and to add that back to the county for the services that they're able to offer, because they're able to offer some wider services than those two groups were able to do. Really, that is all I have on my list. Yes, Mike.
I sent the council some, I sent the council some legislative priorities for League of Oregon Cities. If you could just maybe get a chance to review that over the course of the next week, I have to get back to them by August 5th and submit our top 5 priorities for what we want to lobby for down in Salem. But I did put that marijuana tax, the measure 110, because that is a disaster from my standpoint. And anyway, hopefully they can fix that, because it not only affects our police force and our enforcement agencies, it also affects the bottom line for small cities, because it takes all of our tax revenue and gives it to larger agencies. Anyway, I digress. So if you could maybe review that and get back to me on what your priorities are, that way I can fill out that ballot and submit it, that'd be great. Thanks.
With that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second?
All those in favor, please either raise your hand, say aye.
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 Three online and 3 here, so 6, and Mayor Bender as well.
All right, so moved, and with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
$300 million.